For years, the standard startup story sounded simple. Incorporate in Delaware, use the classic corporate structure, raise capital, grow fast. But that story is getting more complicated. As AI governance becomes more visible, as public trust becomes more fragile, and as more companies try to balance scale with mission, founders are asking a harder question. Can a company be built for profit without pretending profit is the only thing that matters? That is one reason interest in the Delaware Public Benefit Corporation keeps resurfacing. Not because it is trendy, because the market is now wrestling with the same tensions the structure was designed to address.
A Delaware PBC is still a for-profit corporation. That part matters. This is not a non-profit wrapper and not a vague mission statement exercise. Under Delaware law, a public benefit corporation is a for-profit corporation intended to produce a public benefit and operate in a responsible and sustainable manner. In practical terms, that means the mission is not just marketing language on a website. It is embedded into the corporate structure itself. That is the conceptual difference from the classic C-Corp framing. A classic corporation is usually discussed through a conventional profit and governance lens. A Delaware PBC adds an expressly stated public purpose into the legal architecture. This structure feels more relevant again because the broader market changed. In 2025 and 2026, governance discussions around tech and AI became sharper, not softer. Questions about responsibility, trust, public impact, and mission durability are no longer niche. So when founders look at Delaware PBCs today, they are not just looking at an alternative entity form. They are looking at a possible answer to a modern governance problem. How do you scale a high-impact company without turning mission into a disposable slogan the moment real capital arrives? That is why PBC discussions now land differently than they did years ago. The structure is the same category of tool, but the market context around it is much more intense. A PBC is not automatically the better version of a corporation. It is not a moral upgrade for every startup. It is a fit question. The structure is more obviously relevant for mission-driven companies, impact-oriented businesses, some AI-sensitive ventures, and companies whose public purpose commitments are important enough that they want them formally reflected in the corporate framework. But for many businesses, a traditional Delaware C-Corp will still be cleaner, simpler, and more aligned with their operating reality. So the mature way to look at a PBC is not romantically, it is instrumentally. What problem is this structure solving for this company? If there is no clear answer, the form may not be the right one. Delaware is known for stability, precedent, and mainstream corporate architecture. But the existence and continued use of the PBC form shows something else too. Delaware is not only preserving old corporate logic, it is also giving sophisticated companies legal tools for newer governance realities. That is important because it changes how people think about the jurisdiction. Delaware is not powerful only because it is familiar. It is powerful because it can absorb evolving corporate needs without giving up institutional credibility. That combination, stability plus adaptability, is part of why Delaware remains central to the US incorporation conversation. Can a company raise capital, hire aggressively, expand globally, and still preserve a meaningful commitment beyond pure financial output? A Delaware PBC does not magically solve that tension, but it does show that the question is serious enough to deserve a formal legal structure. And that is what makes this form interesting for AI and mission-driven founders in particular, because once governance, public trust, and long-term responsibility become part of the company's identity, the legal form stops being just administrative. It becomes part of the company's operating philosophy.
So the point is not that every startup should rush to become a Delaware PBC. The point is that this structure reveals something important about where the market is going and about how Delaware itself is evolving. the Delaware story is no longer about classic incorporation efficiency. It is also about whether corporate law can keep up with new expectations around mission, governance, and trust. And the Public Benefit Corporation is one of the clearest signals that this evolution is already happening.